This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, October 22nd, 1975. Yeah, I know that you may be thinking that was the Carlton Fisk home run. Because technically it was at 12:30 in the morning on this day, October 22nd. But no, this is about Game 7. Now you'd be thinking, hang on, you did something about the 75 World Series Game 6 last year, didn't you? Yes, I did. Unfortunately for you guys, sometimes there's two great stories within a World Series. Now, I'm going to be bound to repeat myself from my previous video from last year. But anyhow, the 1975 World Series started off great. It was the Boston Red Sox who won 95 games against the big red machine of the Cincinnati Reds with Sparky Anderson, with 108 wins and 54 losses, meaning that Cincy, in every 3 regular season games they played, they won 2 at 203, 667 percentage. Of course, the 75 World Series has been contested to be probably the greatest World Series or the second greatest World Series. Some say 75 is the best, some say 91 is the best. But anyway, yeah, the Reds were the big red machine. They crushed the NL West easily and swept the Pittsburgh Pirates to get to the World Series in the NLCS. In the ALCS, Boston, a plucky team that had hearkened to the Impossible Dream season of 1967, came out of nowhere and not only won the AL East, they swept the Oakland A's. It was shocking. Oakland were the 3-time defending champs, and they got swept in the ALCS by the Red Sox. Anyway, the Reds were trying to get their title in the 1970s. They won a trip to the World Series in 70 and 72, but lost to Baltimore and Oakland respectively. The Red Sox would be back in the World Series for the first time since that improbable season in 1967, in which they took St. Louis to Game 7. Anyway, this was an epic World Series. The main reason will be foreshadowing later. Anyway, Game 1 started on a Saturday afternoon at Fenway Park, when World Series games were in the afternoon. Boston easily won 6-0. Louis Tiant went all the way. Boston would have scored 6 runs in the bottom of the 7th. Carlton Fisk walked to force in a run. Rico Petrocelli hit a 2-run single. Rick Burleson hit a RBI single. Cecil Cooper, yes, he played for the Red Sox in 75, with a sac fly. So Tiant did his job. And then Sunday afternoon, even though NFL football would be on, NBC would broadcast the World Series. Cincy would score 2 runs in the 9th to win 3-2 as Raleigh Eastwick beat Dick Drago. Bill Lee looked pretty good through 8 innings. After Johnny Bench got a double, Lee was replaced with Drago, the closer. After a ground out, it looked good, but George Foster popped up. It looked like the Red Sox were going to get those 3 outs after all. But Dave Concepcion scored a single up the middle. And it was 2-2. Concepcion stole second, and Ken Griffey Sr. hit a double, making it 3-2. In Game 3, October 14th, it was controversial in the bottom of the 10th. Boston had scored 2 runs in the 9th to tie the game. Unfortunately, though, Ed Armbruster would be a controversial figure. He was a pinch hitter. He was up to sacrifice, so he did a bunt. He bounced high off the plate. Carlton Fisk pounced the ball, but Armbruster didn't get out of the box, and people thought that he purposely backed up so that Fisk didn't have a play to second base. Armbruster should have been out for interference. Marv Rinneman struck out, and then Joe Morgan hit a sacrifice fly, making it 2 games on Cincy. However, Tiant would pitch a complete game, 5-4. 4 runs in the 5th inning helped Boston win as he beat Fred Norman. So it looked good for Boston. 2-2. Game 5, unfortunately, saw Don Gullett beat Canadian Reggie Cleveland. In the game 6-2, Raleigh Eastwick picked up the save. Although I thought he picked up a save. It's not. Well, Gullet went through 8 and 2/3 innings. And then game 6 happened. The funny thing is, game 6, yes, it happened on October 21st. And people were like, wow, that day. But the funny thing is, game 5 was the 16th. So, of course, the travel day, it was supposed to be the weekend. Would be game 6 was supposed to be played on a Saturday and game 7 on a Sunday. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, as 3 days of heavy rain in Boston postponement after postponement after postponement. Thankfully, though, the MLB was patient enough. So anyway, the heavy rain actually helped the Red Sox because Louis Tion and Bill Lee would be available for Game 6 and 7 respectively. And Don Gullet would probably pitch Game 7, if it goes to Game 7. So yeah, 3 days of rain, and Pete Rose said this made the World Series popular because now with nothing to do, you got the interviews, you got to get to know the players, the newspapers collect. Fred Lynn suffered a rib injury when he slammed into the center field wall trying to catch a ball from Ken Griffey Sr., which was the triple. That actually led Boston to repad the outfield walls and all that. The Reds had a 6-3 lead in the 8th inning. Pedro Bourbon gave up an infield single to Fred Lynn. Then Rico Petrocelli was walked to bring the tying run to the plate. Raleigh Eastwick came into the game, struck out Dwight Evans, and got rid of Burleson. And then Bernie Carbo was set to pinch hit for Roger Murray, the reliever. Sparky Anderson almost decided to call in Will McEnany, his left-handed reliever, to pitch to Carbo, who was left-handed hitting. But then Anderson figured that they were going to call on the Red Sox were going to use Juan Benitez. So, it actually almost worked out for Sparky as Eastwick overmatched Carbo on a 2-2 count. Carbo fouled off a couple pitches, but then he slammed a ball over the center field fence to tie the game. Anyway, it was a tie game. The Red Sox, in the bottom of the 9th, had the chance to win. Denny Doyle walked and got to third base on a Yaz single. So McEnany came in, intentionally brought Carlton Fisk to face Fred Lynn, who flied out to Foster in left field. But Denny Doyle stupidly decided to tag up and score and was thrown out. That was 2 outs. That did not end the inning, but Petrocelli grounded out. So anyway, of course, the 11th inning was when Dwight Evans made that leaping catch near the visitors' bullpen and actually doubled to rob Joe Morgan of a home run, or at least extra bases, and doubled up Ken Griffey Sr. So anyway, Pat Darcy came in. And Fisk, with a 1-0 count, hit a sinker down the left field line, and it struck the foul pole above the Green Monster, which means home run. And of course, an iconic baseball film highlight, NBC's left field game camera, which was in the scoreboard, caught Fisk wildly waving his arms to the right after hitting the ball and watching its path. The thing is, the cameraman in the scoreboard actually was supposed to follow the flight of the ball, but a rat distracted him and captured Fisk instead, thus giving birth to the instant reaction shot. Anyway, Game 7, the next night. 8 hours after the game had ended, they had to play again. In the 3rd inning, Don Gullet had trouble. He gave up a single to Yaz to score a run. He would walk Rico Petrocelli and Dwight Evans both times with the bases loaded, meaning that runs were scored. It was 3-0. He was relieved by Jack Billingham in the 4th. Bill Lee looked good, and it looked like he was going to win this game. He shut out the Reds through 5 innings. In the 6th inning, he thought he was going to get off the hook. His Johnny Bench had a routine grounder, which should have ended the inning, and it would be 3-0 through 5.5. Burleson got it to Danny Doyle for 1 out, But as Doyle went to first base, Rose slid high and hard into Doyle to force a terrible throw. Bench went to second, and then Bill Lee stupidly decided to throw the blooper pitch to Tony Perez, who was ready and slammed it over the Green Monster, making it 3-2 for Boston. How do you do that? Like idiot. Ken Griffey Sr. scored on a single by Rose to tie the game at 3. In the ninth, Griffey walked. Cesar Geronimo sacrificed Griffey the second, and then got to third. Griffey went to third on a Dan Dreesen ground out. So Jim Burden came into the mound. He decided to walk Rose to set up a force play. Unfortunately, Joe Morgan somehow, in some way, blooped a breaking ball into center field to score the go-ahead and what would eventually be the series-winning run. It was just unbelievable. Unfortunately, the Sox were retired in order. The Reds finally got their first World Series in 34 years. The first time since 1940 they have won a title. And the Red Sox would still have the Curse of the Bambino. Although, the Curse of the Bambino would technically be coined once 1986 hit for the Red Sox. So, anyway. NBC had Curt Gowdy and Joe Garagiola alternating play-by-play alongside the local team announcers Dick Stockton. So Gowdy and Garagiola would do play-by-play on both radio and TV and alternate with the local announcers Ned Martin and Marty Brenneman. Well, Dick Stockton was also on the World Series broadcast. It was Stockton who called the home run in the bottom of the 12th. Tony Kubek would do color commentary. This was the last time NBC Radio got the World Series that had exclusive rights since 1957. CBS Radio would take over. In fact, this is the earliest World Series for which all games survive today in their entirety. Usually 1 or 2 games from previous World Series would be erased to save videotape and all that. They had to reuse old tapes to save money and space. And all the games have been preserved since 1975. And unfortunately, this would also be the final World Series for Curt Gowdy, being NBC's play-by-play person. Joe Garagiola was made to be play-by-play as well. So Garagiola took over the NBC role with Kubek. Now, of course, a lot of people say that NBC was forced to get rid of Gowdy because of Gowdy's criticism of the arbiter play. And, Bowie Kuhn figured that Gowdy was inciting a riot or something. And it also didn't help that Ford or General Motors basically vowed to pull advertising from NBC and Major League Baseball if they didn't replace Gowdy. So, fucking Kuhn, bowed under the pressure. But anyway, Gowdy went to CBS, which was like a shock. It's like, him to CBS? But anyhow, the end of it. Curt Gowdy would still do several bits of media throughout. But yeah, NBC lost a good play-by-play voice. Screw you, Bowie Kuhn. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond.